2030 is an important year in the net zero calendar, and it's only 4.5 years away. So today we thought we'd talk about climate change and how we're going to achieve net zero.
Then, of course, there's the scientific, engineering and economic reality that net zero cannot be reached by 2050. We don't have the technology to do that. The scientists and the engineers admit that when you question them.
G'day everyone, welcome to the Bothy.
G'day.
How are you, mate?
Good, mate.
Bit cooler today.
Yeah, so we're a bit chilly. We'll have to start using the fire.
Yeah,
definitely.
Everybody should be enjoying our magnificent lights that we've now got hooked up to a battery in our no-power Bothy.
Yeah, as long as the battery doesn't fail.
Oh, well. Well, good time to be talking about climate change.
True.
Batteries. True. So there's a lot going on. 2030, Australia and the rest of the world have made commitments to get to certain levels, and those levels vary. Australia are going to hit 43% of what we were in 2005. The UK is going to be 78% of what they were in 1990. And China has said that they're going to they'll have reached their peak by 2030, and then they'll start thinking about coming the other way.
Oh.
So we'll get to China later. The climate change there's been fear-mongering for years, right?
Since the 60s, mate.
Yeah. You got some examples.
I have. I can't do all of them. There's just too many. So in 1970, in the Boston Globe, the title was Ice Age by 2000.
Oh.
Yeah.
What happened?
No. Then 1972, the Washington Post, New Ice Age by 2070. Okay.
Might be.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? We're not there yet. 1978, no end in sight for the 30-year cooling. That's in the New York Times. Washington, D.C., days over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, to change from 35 days of the year to 85 days of the year. But the number of hot days in D.C. area peaked in 2011 and have been declining ever since. The Maldives, completely underwater in 30 years. That was the Canberra Times. Put one in for Australia. Then we've got this is 1989, rising sea levels to obliterate nations by 2000. That was the Associated Press. 2004, Britain to have Siberian climate by 2020. If you ask me, being from Britain, it was already Siberian climate. 2008, Arctic will be ice-free by 2018. Associated Press. They're good.
They are good.
2008, Al Gore warns of ice-free Arctic by 2013. Don't think that's happened.
12 years ago.
2009, ice-free by 2014. That was USA Today. So the fear-mongering for this global warming stuff and the doomsdayers, they've been around
forever.
For as long as longer than I've been born. So my argument is basically from the 70s to the early 80s, we were going into an ice age. They had all the proof, all the evidence. Now we're going into a warming. They've had it wrong for 40 years, 50 years.
Yeah.
Who's to say they've got it right this time?
Nobody.
Yeah, so, I'm not on board with it. I really am not. And the scientists who don't want to talk because they're getting told to shut up, or you're going to lose your bloody money.
Yeah.
It's just a lie on top of a lie. If you say a lie enough, it becomes the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what this is, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, we've fucked the planet up in several ways that we can see. Why don't we fix that shit first? Like the plastic. The plastic's an issue.
Yeah.
Try and sort the plastic. We can see the plastic. It's not invisible. Yeah. We can see it. Why not? Why don't we look at things like that we can see, that we can help, instead of like going after businesses? It's a rot. They're killing small business.
Yes.
For this, could it, would it, should it be? But is it?
Yeah.
We don't know if it's climate change. It's climate change. There's been climate change for billions of years.
Yeah.
Are we causing it? Maybe, maybe not. But if we are, when the planet warms so often and gets cold so often, who's to say that us forcing it to be a bit warmer is actually going to do major detrimental damage?
Yeah.
They don't know. They're making it up as they go along.
We might be actually prolonging our...
You don't know.
civilization.
Yeah.
Because we both believe there's been civilizations around before ours,
definitely.
over hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
So we thought today we'd have a look at some of the things that are going on around the world to allow us to hit net zero. And it was interesting looking into this. The first thing I looked at was the Kyoto Protocol, which more and more people seem to have pulled out of. And they use really strong language on their website and their documentation, like, we're putting things into force. Come on, they're not putting any into force. What they're really saying is, they're asking countries to adopt measures to mitigate greenhouse gases. They're not beating their fist or pounding their chest at all. It's a lot of shit.
Mostly it seems to be the Western countries that are getting hammered by their governments.
Yeah. Look, the UN driving the Kyoto Protocol, I mean, it's garbage. And then there's the Paris Agreement. 4 countries in the world are not in the Paris Agreement. One's the USA, because Donald's just ripped it out. Biden put it back in. Whoever gets in next will put it back in, and that's just a political bomb. The other 3 are all oil-producing massive countries, which is Libya, Iran, and Yemen.
Yeah.
Every other country in the world is part of the Paris Agreement, like Somalia.
Yeah, Somalia.
Like Palestine. How are they coming to? Well, they don't have any power.
But mate, some people don't even recognise them as a country, so it's like...
Well, the state of Palestine signed up to the Paris Agreement in 2016, and they are going to be net zero by 2050. Well, probably as close to net zero now as they've ever been.
Yeah, well, there's no houses there or power, so...
Correct. Yeah. And there's a lot of political parties in Australia with this election, not a lot of the major parties, but a lot of the minor parties are promising to withdraw from the Paris Agreement on the back of the US doing it. So, Paris Agreement, what I don't get with the Paris Agreement is not a whole lot of countries coming together saying we're going to do the same thing, we're going to have the same goal, the same aim, and we're going to do it at the same time.
Yeah, there's different goals.
Every country's got a different goal.
Yeah.
It's either 2050 net zero or 2060 net zero. Yeah, our goal is to be 43% there by 2030 compared to 2005. The UK, as we mentioned earlier, they want 70-something% of 1990.
They don't have enough land to put enough solar panels in Britain.
Correct.
What are they thinking?
China have promised that by 2030 they will reach their peak of production.
Yay, China.
So, I read, how does Australia, so we've got a small population, we travel the country, it's a massive country to travel around either by flight, train or transport.
Yep.
There's things being trucked and bussed everywhere. How do we get to net zero? So obviously the government are targeting industrial facilities. They're targeting oil and gas mining, manufacturing, transport, waste facilities. But one of the targets we've got by 2030 in Australia is to rely on renewable energy to the tune of 82% of our total energy. That'll be wind and solar by 82% by 2030. No chance.
No.
What are we doing?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's like we live in a backwards world where they don't see what's already happened in front of us. It happened during COVID. Oh, we don't know what's going to happen. Just look at those freaking countries there. You can see what's going to happen. It's like, do they have blinders on?
I don't know.
They're walking around like this in the dark. What is wrong with them?
2030 is 4.5 years away, and we don't even have the infrastructure to be able to run renewable energy to people's houses.
I mean, they're going to have to get people that burn gasoline in their cars or petrol or diesel. They're going to have to say, "Oh, you can't drive your car today." How are you going to get to work? Everybody lives I'm nearly an hour away from my work. It's like, how am I going to get there? But the trains are useless. They're useless.
No, we've got 4 train lines pretty much in Victoria. They are useless, or 5. So then I started looking at, they're obviously looking at new vehicle efficiency standards, but if you're driving a petrol and a diesel vehicle, you can make them as efficient as you like. They're always going to be not as efficient as we need them to be. For us to go to electric vehicles, even if it only takes 5 minutes to charge like some of these new ones do, you can't get to the next service station in some cases.
No.
How are you going to get from here to Perth?
Yeah.
How are you going to get from here to Brisbane? How are you going to get up to the Northern Territory through
It's
the
going to
Northern
take you
Territory?
4 days.
And if you take your caravan, you're going 150 k's, mate. That's it.
Yeah.
So, and that's what our country is built on.
Yeah.
People who
Travel everywhere.
Travel everywhere. Exactly right. So I looked at whether nuclear is the alternative, and one of our major parties is pressing nuclear pretty hard. It is, but there's obviously environmental effects through uranium mining and things like that. But it is lower for carbon emissions. It does reduce air pollution. And most importantly, it's a reliable source of energy.
Yeah.
You think about the blackouts we have now, and they don't last 20 minutes like they used to. Blackouts were so rare when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Now they're regular. They're at least fortnightly, and they're sometimes hours on end, sometimes days.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's what it was like in America when I went to America back in early 2000s. San Francisco. Blackout. What the hell? This was close to Christmas time. And the concierge said to me, oh yeah, this happens all the time. I'm like, what? But you have blackouts. So he said, well, not all the time. He says, but it happens regularly. I'm like, we don't want that.
We don't want that. No. So who's participating? Like I said, there's a lot of people with different goals for net zero. But I had a look at last year in isolation as to what some countries are doing. 95% of the world's new coal power construction was built in China. 94% of the whole world. Yep. I think they were building, I think it was close to 20 coal power plants a year. Yep. So it's going up. They account for a 65% increase in world coal power capacity. Just last year, 65% increase in the world.
So while we're going to zero or pushing it,
they're going up.
They're going up.
So it puts it into context. Australia still relies on coal, not as much as we did, and some of them are about to get closed down. So we've got 18 coal power plants in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
China, 1,161. 1,161.
Jesus.
The country that comes second is India. They've got 615. And the USA have 204. Last year they had 211. So they've closed 7, and they are trying to reduce. Yeah.
Oh, they're reducing?
They're reducing.
Even with Trump in?
Even with Trump in, yeah. Well, last year was Biden still, so I don't know about this year. But last year they went from 211 to 204. China generates 50% of all electricity in the world. So if they've said that they're going to continue to grow their emissions till 2030, and then they'll look at starting to reduce them, and they hope to hit net zero by 2060, so they're already a generation, 10 years, decade behind the rest of us. Why are we bothering?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. The rest of the world could go to net zero, and we still wouldn't be able to hit the number the world needs to hit to drop the temperature by 1.5.
We're going to go back. We're going to go back to the caveman day. That's what's going. If you don't use all these fuels, we've got ample amounts of right this moment.
Yeah.
And we go to wind and solar as our main source of energy.
Yeah.
We all know sometimes it's not windy. Sometimes there's no sun. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Rely on battery backup.
We'll be living in the Bothy, mate. We'll have a candle here and a lantern there.
And a fire.
A fire. What more do you need?
Yeah.
Oh, we cook steak. Oh,
pizza as well.
Yeah. A couple of interesting articles I read about can we achieve net zero? The answer was yes, we can achieve net zero. We can do it through demand reduction. That pricked my ears up because here we go again, the whole freedom of anything.
Yeah. No freedom there.
There are foreseen rations either regionally or by curfew.
Yeah.
If anyone ever says to me, you have to turn your lights out by 10 o'clock at night, or, hey, your country region only has power from Monday to Thursday because you've got to say, I'm moving.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. Where would you move to?
Ukraine?
Poland?
Poland would be good. Yeah. Not much going wrong there.
No.
Yeah.
But they're racist. You have to remember that.
They're not.
Well, no, that's what the rest of Europe calls them.
Very, very hard to immigrate to Poland.
Well, I heard is it where is it now? It's one of the places where the Sikhs are in northern India.
Right.
And they've got a whole area.
Anyway.
I've never heard of that, but they've got a whole area up there that is green.
Right.
Like literally everything they run It's all self-sufficient. Sounds like a great idea. I might
It
go
works.
there.
Yeah, right.
I think it's Rajasthani or something like that.
I tell you what I do enjoy, a swim. So I go to the Maldives, be underwater by 1998.
10 years late.
And guess what? It's not. It's not underwater.
Yeah, that's true.
So this really worries me. The whole freedom of movement, the 15-minute cities thing, which we'll talk about in another video a bit later. Curfews, capping car use, all these sorts of trials that are now being trialled in other countries as a little tester. Crazy stuff, mate.
Yeah. Well, actually, looking at these so-called green energy cars, the electric cars, I mean, I've spoken about, I don't know if I've spoken about it here, but like, it's a very, very bad way to get to net zero by like digging up all those minerals. Like, those people that are digging those minerals, my God, their conditions are bullshit.
Yeah, that nickel mine in Indonesia.
Oh my God.
That creates more greenhouse gases than all of Australia's mine put together. One factory.
Yeah.
The largest nickel plant in Indonesia pumps more than 50,000 tonnes of CO2 into the atmosphere every day, creating its own toxic microclimate. All for those environmentally friendly electric vehicles.
Like hundreds of people dying every year working in that mine.
Not only that, so by the time you've put that battery together and got your car there, apparently they have to run that car for 20 years before it's as green as a diesel of the same size. That just tells you it's not working.
Yeah.
It's false. It's not right. They're telling us it's green. It might be greener now, but to get from A to B, it wasn't green. It's not good at all.
No.
Also, there was a guy, I read about a guy that he's an engineer, or he was an engineer, I can't remember. Anyway, this young fella, he was on TikTok or something like that, and he'd made a diesel car that ran 100 miles on 1 gallon. This diesel car, and he said I could make it better than that. And he was trying to get his foot in the door, and he's asked if anybody's interested in the but none of the big companies would touch it because diesel is called a dirty fuel.
Yeah.
Even though 100 miles per gallon, that's like 4 times better than what we've got now. It's like, why wouldn't you look at that?
That's a 25% reduction in profit. No, it's a 75% reduction in profit.
Fuel companies.
Fuel companies, exactly right.
But we're meant to be getting away from them. But they won't even look at it.
No.
It's infuriating.
It is.
And what about the idea we had here about 10 years ago that we're going to clean the coal up and make a diesel fuel from it? And it was going to be cleaner than anything that we'd have, like any of the fuels that we've got, obviously apart from batteries. Well, that's a bit dodgy anyway. But they were going to make like a diesel derivative, so as close to diesel as you could get out all this coal we've got. That got put in the back burner right away. I think it was 10, 15 years ago. I'm like, we've got all this coal. Why can't we use it? We can clean brown coal to a certain extent as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm keen to do that if we could do it. But why can't we fix the shit we've got instead of getting all this other stuff and we need new infrastructure for, which we don't have. We can't afford it. There's no land. There's not enough land. Usable land
Yeah.
that we can put all this shit on.
Yeah.
And you go around Britain today,
Yeah.
there's freaking windmills everywhere.
Yeah.
And you know what? If half of them are running, you'd be surprised because they're all broken or it's too windy for it, so they put a brake on it. It's like, freaking hell.
Yeah, I was watching a video this morning and there was a guy up on a lookout. Must have been, I don't know what it was, some tower. And he just panned 360 and it was solar panels as far as you could see to the ocean on one side, to the cliffs, and as far as you could see. And it was, no wonder the farmers are getting, there's a real push around the world, and every country's doing it a little bit differently to reduce farm land.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's because they're going to push solar and wind
On all these
lands.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's certainly happening here with wind.
Yeah.
No
But
doubt about
then there'll be a famine because we're not got enough farmers actually growing anything.
Why do you think they're trying to get us to stop eating meat?
Mm.
Yep.
Mm.
It's Yeah.
The problem is they won't stop eating meat.
No.
They'll still get all their goodies and their like special treats. We'll be living on gruel and bloody pretend bloody meat made out of bloody beans.
Can you get beef flavoured gruel? That sounds all right. There's 2 tiers of living. We all know that, probably more. But there's the
Them.
us and them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no if that's or maybe about that.
And any time we can kick them in the jocks and stop them doing what they're doing, it's only going to help us, not them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we need to do.
Yeah. Net zero. I'm sick of it. Yeah, I don't want to hear about it.
No.
Because the only way we're going to achieve it is through a shitload of pain.
Yeah.
We're going to have to be curfewed, or we're going to have to be rationed, or we're not going to be able to eat certain foods anymore, or we're not going to be allowed to go anywhere more than 15 minutes from home. I can't get to a supermarket within 15 minutes of where I live. Or we're going to have a ring of steel around certain regions, and I'm not going to be allowed to go and visit my family.
COVID all over again.
Yeah. It gave people ideas.
Yeah.
The 15-minute cities that we'll talk about later, they were never thought of until COVID. And now there are towns following this.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so let's do that.
Hey, we can control the shit out of them.
Yeah.
That's all it's about. It's about control and us losing our freedoms.
Yeah.
That's all it's about.
A lot of walled towns used to have walls to keep people out.
Nah.
Now,
No.
The net zero push is a scam, as you know. Often the products and policies pushed to promote net zero create more clear-cut environmental damage than the emissions they supposedly save. We've shown you renewable energy and transmission projects right around this country that bear that out. Clearing of bushland, destruction of environments, and even the disruption of fishing grounds and coastlines. Then, of course, there's the scientific, engineering and economic reality that net zero cannot be reached by 2050. We don't have the technology to do that. The scientists and the engineers admit that when you question them. So really, net zero by 2050 is the great lie of modern politics, certainly the great lie of our current election campaign, with both sides pretending they can do it.
So net zero, mate, I just wish we'd come up with something a little more realistic. Understand our history. The planet gets cooler and warmer. If you look back over the last 300,000 years, you can see that there's been 6 or 7 periods where the climate has changed naturally.
Yeah.
That wasn't because of our industrial ways. And now the push isn't even to try and get it back to pre-1990 in the UK or 2005 here. They're now saying we need to reduce our emissions back to pre-industrial age, the 1700s.
I know.
You know what that means? Here's a candle for you and a candle for me. You better turn your phone off and your TV off and everything else off.
Yeah.
Because we're going back to the dark ages.
That's what it looks like.
Maybe that's what
the dark ages was.
Yeah.
Maybe they had power before that. And went, right, we have to go to net zero.
Yeah.
What?
Back in your caves.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah, because there's really not a lot written about that 400 to 500 years before the Vikings hit Lindisfarne.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe that's when they had the last reset.
Yeah.
Although I think it was probably closer to the late 1900s that we had the last reset. I think. Early 1900s.
Early 1900s.
So like the wars. Wars are always a sign. Anyway, that's...
So net zero, can we do it?
Nah.
Not in our current form.
This little black duck isn't doing it. No way.
No. I would give anything to go completely off grid, live off my own tanks, which we sort of do, but have a better supply and have a proper battery bank. People we know have just gone to a full battery bank to run their farm, and it costs serious money. I'm talking 6 figures to get it to that stage, but they are no longer on the grid at all.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I'm extremely envious of that position that they put themselves in.
If I could afford to do it, I would do it.
Yeah, but it costs a lot of money. And the government are coming out saying, we're going to give you a 30% subsidy on a $4,000 battery. $4,000 battery?
I know.
It's going to run for 3 hours if we're lucky. It's not going to run your fridge overnight. Yeah. And what do batteries do? They degrade.
Yeah.
So what do you do in 5 years' time when the battery's not lasting as long?
Well, they're saying 10 years.
Oh, come on. What? In 10 years, that $4,000 battery won't be subsidised anymore, and it'll be $15,000. It's just another way of getting money out of everybody.
We're just all going to be a bit poorer with less freedom and less say.
And
it's going to look more like 1984 than ever.
1984 is the year you kept going back to, isn't it?
I
Nothing good happened in that.
No, I love that book.
Yeah, right.
Well, I love how depressing it was. Actually, I don't love the book.
I don't know it. I don't know it.
1984?
I don't know it.
Oh, God.
No, I don't know.
Sorry about him.
So no net zero for us.
No.
We're not helping.
Also, before we go, I was reading something that was in the Financial Post in 2015. So,
Australia? Or?
No, America. Obama said that 97% supported global warming by humans. Humans were causing global warming.
97% of what?
97% of scientists studies supported man-made global warming. But it was kind of a poor survey and methodology, and it misrepresented what the scientists actually said.
A politician lied.
So, of that 97%, 66% actually took no position whatsoever on climate change for or against humans causing it or not. So that left 34%. Of the 34%, 33% supported at least a weak human contribution to global warming. A weak contribution. So out of the 34% that did say something, 33% said a weak contribution. That's how they got their 97%.
So 97% is really more like 1%. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can't believe Obama would do that to us. Lie like that.
Well, he's a politician.
He is.
Yeah. And they can lie stand up.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, sitting down, upside down. Lie in any position they like. All right, mate. So net zero, we're not on board. No. All right. Let us know what you think, people. Can we get to net zero? Do we need to get to net zero, or will the world look after itself? Will it heal itself in some way or some form? And are there ways that we can continue to survive if the planet does warm?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
See ya.